Alrighty, hello, you guys. Welcome back to the channel. I wanted to come to you guys with something very, very important. Very important that I think that we should be paying a closer attention to, not just what's all over the media, not just what people are going to be emphasizing on, but some things that I think that people are not really focusing on when it comes to these conversations. Today, we're going to be talking about the summit between China and the US. And I'm over here, I'm not a geopolitical expert. This is not something I majored in. This is something I'm relatively very new in this space, but I dare say that I think I had a few different observations that most people maybe not comment on, maybe not say, maybe not emphasize on, but I think it's critically important, especially for those of us who are just average, daily Joe Schmoes, right? That we look into, and I'm going to share with you guys my insight on things that I look at when it comes to just mannerisms, communication, negotiations, especially since I've been in the space of negotiations, being in finance for so long, being in a corporate setting, understanding, and being actually working with a company for a very, very long time that actually leads in a lot of the things that that impact our lives on a daily basis. But essentially, I think it's pretty important that we have this conversation. I want to focus less on the headlines and more on the tone, messaging, and diplomacy, and what both leaders seem to be actually communicating about. So without further ado, without rambling on too much, before we get into today's topic, do remember to subscribe to the channel, turn on your post notifications, do like the video, and do comment below if you guys were at the edge of your seats these past 2 days kind of waiting for them to finally talk to us, okay, what happened, what did we speak on, what is going on, I know I was, so I hope you guys were too. I definitely want to hear your thoughts and opinions on these matters, but let's get into today's topic. Okay, so as you guys know, for those of you guys who may not, President Ping and President Trump were meeting in China. Day one, obviously everyone saw, and I'm not going to play it here because I really want to focus on what was said rather than the spectacles of everything that's going on in the headlines. But we saw Donald Trump come off Air Force with a group of global leaders behind him. And I thought it looked that was kind of like a boss move. I can't even lie. I think that was a good look for the US. I think that was a good look in general. To have executives coming to talk about real issues that are affecting us, obviously trade, obviously the war, and then a couple of other things that I don't think people highlight enough. Which particularly for me was, we have tech leaders in there. What is a big tech talk conversation that's constantly going on, and the tech wars that are going on? AI, I think, was a critical conversation, and who other than to have this conversation with and bring these tech leaders to than our actual competitors. I don't think that is going around enough from the things that I've listened to between day one, day two, and even today. So I'm very interested and I want to share with you guys my thoughts and opinions. But let's get into a specific comment that I want to kind of emphasize on here, which is that I found interesting. I'm gonna let you guys hear, and then I'm gonna give my thoughts. So let's get into it.
That President Trump not only is in China, but he brought with him not only American CEOs, but top CEOs from around the world. Their mere presence in China, the mere fact that President Trump was coming to China to see Xi Jinping, sends a very strong message for China that it's not only a world force, but also the leader of what you could call a new world order.
Okay, you guys heard it. The leader of a new world order. And obviously it was starting with the fact that there's tech CEOs there. There's this tech. Let's just take a moment to step back, right? And this is just my opinion. Obviously, I'm a faith-based Christian thinking person. I've been around many different executives. I've participated in business affairs and understanding negotiations, but I also understand the need to be mindful of what's being said, especially when presenting to your employees, whether presenting to the world, whether presenting to someone in general. Your choice of words do matter. And something that stood out to me is that he said Trump brought these world leaders, not the first guys, not the second guys, the number one guys of their respective fields, whether finance or in tech, to China to have these conversations. And the fact that he used the message for China is that this is not only a new world force, but a new world order is interesting. It's very interesting, especially because we've heard so much, and people are going to say, "Oh, this is a conspiracy theorist kind of thing." Um, I'm not going down that rabbit hole right now at all. But what I will say is that we're talking about, look at all the things that happened in the past, especially the past few years recent, on global phenomenons that have happened, for lack of a better word, of the things that are coming out now, of the things that are being put into light, and of the things that have happened that affected us in a negative way. And I don't think that a lot of these events are secluded, if that makes sense. I think that in some weird way it kind of ties together, and tying into this moment, which Mr. Ping, Mr. Trump said themselves is a very historical time. And them emphasizing on certain words like friendship, them emphasizing on mutual respect, on unity, on partnership. To me, is not coincidental. In order to have new world order, there needs to be a global reform and global understanding and mutual understanding between countries. And the fact that you have of the biggest economies, two of the countries with the biggest economies coming together to have real discussions on trade, on economy, on war, with the finance leaders and tech leaders of today. Number one, I don't think that that word was unconsciously said, or that phrasing was unconsciously used. And I think a lot of the things that we didn't pay attention to back in the day that the news kind of said, we look back on and be like, oh crap, they were saying it to us the whole entire time, instead of taking a moment to actually listen to what's being said, why it's, and at least questioning, why is this happening, right? People like People are gonna say, Sharon, because there's a lot of stuff going on in the world. Yeah, but there's always stuff going on in the world, but we don't understand why the stuff going on in the world is going on, and what the actual ultimate goal is, or what the issue truly was, the root cause of it truly was. And I think that that's the reasons why we have conspiracy theories, why we have, these outbreaks on social media and these disagreements and the separation, because we're not truly paying attention to what matters, and we're not paying attention in the moment that it's happening. We have good reaction, we're not good at being proactive, or at least being in the room and understanding what's happening in the moment. Now, am I saying definitively I know what's going on? No. I'm giving my general opinion on things that are interesting to me, that are being said by these world leaders, but also by the outlets that are reporting on them. Because this is the only way that we would know that, as Americans, we only know through NBC or other news outlets in the US. Same thing with China, they have their news outlets. So just be mindful. There's no podcasters in China right now that are actively there giving their opinions and their thoughts on what's going on, unless I missed something. I didn't see them. I see a lot of different people reacting to what's on the news, but I don't see a lot of different podcasters actually there in China giving their own reporting on what's going on. So I think it's important that we understand that mechanism. And I'm not saying that they're there to sway us in a negative way, in a positive way. I think that two world leaders coming together in general is a very good thing, especially when we're in a time where people would consider it being quite a crisis, between war, between economic uncertainty, between people really feeling it, whether it's in China, whether if it's in the US, of the economic pressures when it comes to pumping gas, when it comes to buying groceries, when it comes to just having a more sustainable life. I think that it is a very important thing. But what I think is even more important than that is that this is the current state that we're in. Where does the state that we're going? And I think, we should be asking those kind of questions. So I wanted to bring that to your forefront, because I personally found it interesting, that particular set of wording. This is what we need to be focusing on. This right here is what is critical. And it's the conversation on AI. Like, why did we have these tech leaders, these industry leaders, these finance leaders come to China to have a discussion? It wasn't to, slap fives and solely talk about war in Iran. It's to talk about the future. The future. And even though I glimpsed of you guys of that comment that came from that news anchor regarding New World Order, nothing definitively was said, obviously, from the president or from President Ping on what the future looks like. But there was a lot of hints on unity, partnership, friendship. And I think I can't harp enough why that's possibly very, very important. But let's get into Trump's comment on AI, because someone asked him, and I think that was probably one of the most important questions to ask the president regarding this discussion, which I don't know why it took so long to get there. But let's hear it, and then I'm gonna close out here with my general thoughts. Because I think this is the most important thing. I really do, because it's shaping our world, not just like online, right? It's not just with ChatGPT, it's not just with Claude, it's not just with all these different softwares with AI. It's affecting our environment, our physical environment, with these data centers, with this push, with this marketing, with this drive, with our jobs, with how things are developing in general. This is the future. So I think it's important that we understand, yes, these are critical things that are happening today that are affecting us today, and we should address them. But I also think that we should be focusing on what is this leading to in the future. So I know I rambled on a little bit. Let's just get into what Trump is saying.
On artificial intelligence, what is it that you want to get done? Did you bring up?
We did. We talked. We're leading by a lot, but they're second, and they're very strong. And we talked about possibly working together for guardrails.
And what kind of guardrails?
The standard guardrails that we talk about all the time. AI is fantastic. So many things can happen in terms of health and medicine and operations, everything. Military, and so many things can happen, but it's also got some drawbacks, and we're talking about, we probably will. We're going to work together. We had a very good conversation about a lot of stuff.
So biological, nuclear, cyber, did you specifically discuss those risks?
We discussed, I would say, almost everything you could discuss except for a reduction of tariffs.
Okay, so I just want to play that portion because I think they get into the whole tariff thing. They get into back to Iran. They get back into Taiwan. They get into, how the conversation would impact farmers and all this other stuff. For me, this was critically important. He said that they discussed the need for guardrails. They discussed, the need for and I'm so upset that other reporter cut him off. Like, oh, what are the general guardrails? Like, I think it's important, but yes, can we let him finish, please? That they discuss guardrails, that they discuss this from, a nuclear capacity, from a military capacity, and from other different capacities, whether it's health and other matters within AI, and understanding that it could yield great benefits, but it is very dangerous as well. And the fact that Elon and a lot of the tech leaders that were there obviously kind of says enough there. But one thing that really stood out to me was when he said that we should do this on a united front. Again, that word of united front when it comes to AI. And this is just my suspicion. I know Tucker Carlson hosted, I forgot the gentleman's name, but he's like a billionaire or millionaire. I think he's a billionaire. I can actually pull it up real quick. Discussed. So yeah, Kevin O'Leary, he had a conversation or a debate, you can kind of say, on AI, American energy and jobs. And something that was said that was kind of mentioned, I think Candace mentioned it on her show. I didn't get to watch this interview, but I did watch Candace's show yesterday, and she kind of put this on the forefront. And I'll play right here for you guys real quick.
Listen to this conversation that Kevin O'Leary had with Tucker Carlson about his investment in that Utah data center.
I mean, it seems like AI will make it possible to know what every American is doing at all times. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I would say that's not AI that's going to do that. I would say now, with the amount of high-resolution video and surveillance that is built into every street corner, that's how they solve a lot of crimes. Now, if you don't like
do they
that,
solve a lot of crimes? Has the
well, they do.
really
They do.
has the closure rate for murders in our big cities, like what percentage of murders are in New York City or Chicago or Detroit or solved?
I don't track the
Pretty
murder
low,
rate.
actually.
Yeah.
It's lower in this country than a lot
The point
of
is
civilized
surveillance
countries.
is a great issue, but the enhancement of surveillance with AI tools is how you now walk through the Dubai airport. And you also walk through some airports here in the US. Facial recognition technology has finally got to the resolution using AI's tools.
Well, I
where
know.
you
It's going to run through your data center. There'll be pictures of all of us in your data center.
every
Nothing
data
else
center.
about us.
But
Right. So
you don't.
but how
you
does that
don't
make
have,
it freer?
You don't have to opt into that program. By the way, I do it for convenience. I'm not hiding anything.
Well, it's on street corners, as you said. So it's anytime you're in public, your face is being surveilled by the U.S.
It
government.
is, but I'm not doing nefarious things. I'm not a criminal, and I'm not stealing any money from anybody. So
the definition of nefarious changes, as you know. I mean, hundreds of thousands of American citizens were sent to concentration camps by Franklin Roosevelt because they were Japanese.
Correct.
So in 1940, it was not a crime to be Japanese. In 1941, it was. So the definition does change, as you know.
It's true. So you could have those concerns, but I ask you again, Tucker.
I do.
No, and I know you do, but I ask you again, and you haven't answered my question. Do you want the insurance policy or not? Would you, with all of the nefarious concerns about AI, which outcome do you prefer as an American for your family? Would you prefer all of us that are developing these data centers put down our shovels and stop while the Chinese accelerate theirs? Would you like that?
So with that being said, the surveillance and the infrastructure, the need for AI and the development and how China governs and how the U.S. is, and I think that leaves me with more questions than answers on what that united front actually looks like that Trump mentioned, but then also what these guardrails are going to look like when it comes to AI, because I think a lot of people right now are afraid of these data centers, are afraid of how energy is going to be used, are afraid of their jobs, are afraid of the cost of living going up because of these changes that are happening, and the fear of not really having much of a say-so in them. These governments and these world leaders are having the forefront of the conversations with future development within AI or advanced technologies that a lot of people are kind of giving pushback to. So I'm very interested to know what that part of the conversation was like. He didn't bring those world leaders to waste their time. He didn't bring those world leaders for nothing. It was a 2-day summit. A lot can be discussed within 5 minutes, let alone within an hour. Imagine 2 days between the world's biggest countries alongside the number one executives, the number one leaders in their respective fields. And I think that should be something that journalists, should be something that podcasters really emphasize on. And I haven't had a chance because I've been obviously doing my own things with my personal affairs, business affairs, but also wanting to prep for this show specifically on these matters. And I'm interested to see if that's something that people are going to be looking into or talking about these next few days, because obviously a lot of things are fresh. But for me, if I were to balance out every single thing, I would say that one's like number one for me. And the reason why it's number one is because it's talking about human autonomy. It's talking about the future of humanity. It's talking about our well-beings, our purpose, our way of life, our economy, and potentially the same way how they're saying like, oh, there's a competition, there's a war going on with AI, that the U.S. has to beat AI, and that's their the U.S. has to beat China when it comes to AI, and that's their justification as to why they're pushing this ahead. Why? To me, it's like, why? Why is something that could potentially be so dangerous being pushed for both countries? And Kevin O'Leary kind of said, they use tech, and they use surveillance, and they use AI in China specifically to monitor their people, to understand what they're doing. I have my suspicions on, what does that mean for the U.S.? I'm not saying that it's coming over here, but the fact that we don't even have a say-so within the data centers that are being developed now, and we don't even have a say-so with the current surveillance that are going on right now. What does that look like for us? What other developments are they going to be uniting together to actually do? And is it for the betterment of, is it in the better of humanity or not? And an even deeper question is not if it's a betterment for humanity that they say it is. Is it actually a betterment of humanity? Is it something that humanity is actually going to want? Especially us being in the US where we have our liberties and we have our rights. Is that going to be respected? And I have genuine concerns about it. I'm curious to know about what this development's going to be, about what the conversation was about what the future of AI and the impacts on humanity. All right, sorry you guys. Yeah, I just had some personal matters I had to attend to. I have some personal matters I had to attend to, so sorry about that. I actually forgot my train of thought with what just happened, but yeah, I wanted to come to you guys. I know that I kind of like left everything off in a tangent, but I think it's really critical that we're asking the proper questions when it comes to these matters with AI. And I can do this in a separate video. Maybe I'll go into it on Self Mastery Monday, especially on how things develop in the comments and the things that are being said, or maybe the things that will come out in these next few days. But I think that, what's going on just in general, I think we should be paying attention to as to like what files are coming out, what things are being said, what meetings are being had, the underlining messaging that is being put out there, the things that are not being said, but things are being hinted to, or even the things that they're not being harped on, like this whole critical thing with AI. I think a lot of people have questions on, there's tension between Taiwan, between the US, Taiwan, and China. And I think, I believe those are things that have been going on for a while. What hasn't been going on for a while is these changes with AI. And I'm trying to understand, like, obviously we don't want a war with Taiwan. We don't want a war with China. We don't want a war in Iran. We don't want a war in general. But this current war that we're having that no one's talking about with the advancement of AI, and they seem to be winning. Whether they're working in a united front now, whether they're about to start working a united front, in general, we're not a part of that conversation. We just know that they're emphasizing and putting it down our throats. And even though there's a lot of benefits, I mean, heaven's sake, I use AI. I use AI every single day, and I'm trying to formulate my own agents and work on different applications and stuff like that on the back end that I don't discuss with you guys. I do think that it's critically important, the conversation on guardrails, the conversation on what the future looks like, and the conversation on what that united front actually is and what the goal is. Because that leaves me, I don't know about you guys, that leaves me with more questions than answers, especially when it comes to two countries that govern very differently, have two different constitutions, have very two different ways of life. We have an appreciation, maybe mutual respect for one another, but we do go about things differently. So I think universal guardrails is a very important thing, safety around that, and the positive progression for humanity, not only by these world leaders, not only by these governors, but by the people, especially in the US, by the people, for the people, from the people, whatever. I don't know if I got that phrase right, but it's important. Us having a say so on what we want, what we don't want, but also how this impacts us. At the very least, can we be privy to that? Not just being told that this is for your betterment or this is complete self-destruction. Because I think both things, I don't do extremes. For me, I don't do extremes because, one, I think that a lot of the time they're highly unlikely, or I think that or the other front is they're very avoidable. And how we can avoid these two extremes, whether if it's an advancement in a way that we do not want, or whether if it's complete destruction. What is the middle ground that all of humanity can agree with, that are yeses and nos, that are good things and bad things? And I would like to be a part of the conversation. I would like at least to know what this united front of what they're trying to push, because that's a war that we're not discussing. The AI war is more things that the AI war is something that people use to justify these needs for technological development, but the actual conversation within itself we're not privy to, and that, for me, that's important, especially for someone who kind of utilize and understands these large language models maybe a little bit more than the average person. But I'm still learning a lot, and to me it's a very important thing, because we do have things that are going on now that are critically important, but we don't want to be ignoring the future conversations that they're having now and be stuck in the future with the things that we don't want, the same how we're stuck in the future with things that we currently with things that we don't want, with conversations they probably had in the past that we weren't paying attention to. So that's all I'm trying to bring to you guys. So I know I said it a lot, and I'm not saying anything definitively. I want to kind of wrap this up by saying, like, hey, these are my general opinions. These are my general observations. These are my general thoughts. I am a very optimistic person by nature, and I try to see the best in humanity and people in general. So I'm hoping that these world leaders, as naive as this statement may be, I really do hope that the progression of humanity is in a positive way, not just by what they see, but by the people, for the betterment of all of us, in all worldviews in general. In general, a generality of like, hey, killing's bad. Hey, the destruction of complete humanity is bad. Hey, people should have a choice in the matter of wanting to have data centers, not wanting to have data centers, or having a controlled mechanism around so we're not impacted economically by these data centers. I think those are important conversations to have, and I think that people should be paying more attention to those things. I think this was a critical thing that people should be paying attention to, because it just not only involves AI, it involves global geopolitical topics, as well as economic topics that people should pay attention to as well. But I know I said a little bit of a lot. I wanted to get this to you guys on time. But that's all I have for today. And remember, we drop content every Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So I'll see you guys in my next video. Do remember to subscribe to the channel, turn on your post notifications, and do comment below your genuine thoughts on this meeting, on the development of the future, on different policies, on just anything in general that we discussed today. I want to hear from you guys. And no, how do you guys look at these things? Am I completely off the loon? Am I, does some of you guys agree with me? If you guys disagree with me, what are the disagreements? I want to know, because there's a lot of things that maybe I'm not seeing. Like I said, I'm very new to this space. I'm just paying attention for the very, not for the very first time. Obviously, we started a few weeks ago, but I'm moving slowly into this space compared to people that been in this space for years. Speak to me about operations, speak to me about finance, speak to me about real estate. I'm good to go. Even in certain aspects and small details in there, like whether it's like legal or governor things or policies and stuff like that, I could speak on. But general geopolitics, a lot of the things that were going on, world economics and the impacts on them, I'm still familiarizing myself with stuff, because I think sometimes we get caught up in our own little bubble. But anyway, that's all I have for you guys today. So I really enjoyed doing this one. Do drop a comment below, and I'll see you guys in my next video. So bye.